When making a movie, every director has a specific set of tools in their filmmaking toolbox. It might be the decision to shoot mostly handheld, use a specific lighting technique, or incorporate sound design in a creative way. With the film Waves, writer and director Troy Edward Schultz takes this filmmaking toolbox, picks it up with two hands, and hurls the entire thing at the screen. We're talking anamorphic lenses, changing aspect ratios, cameras flying through the sky, a unique 2-act structure, and a soundtrack that probably costs more than the entire budget of most other A24 movies. It might seem chaotic and overbearing, but the filmmaking on display is an extension of the character's state of mind. Being a teenager can be an overwhelming experience, and Waves plunges us straight into Tyler's headspace as we're swept under the current of his turbulent life. We start the film with an aspect ratio that fills the entire frame as Tyler's world pours out of the screen to the pulsating sounds of Tame Impala and Animal Collective.
We're trying to make their internal feeling come across with the colors, with the camera movement, with the ratios, with the music, and really just trying to make this subjective immersive experience. So if that's a camera spinning through a car, it's because that's what their love in that moment feels like.
High school is strange because it's really a bunch of kids who probably shouldn't be driving, tasked with discovering how to become a person. Someone who's just learning geometry might not be the best at balancing schoolwork, sports, relationships, family issues, parties, drugs, and whatever else is thrown onto their plate. At that point in your life, you're old enough to experience all the things that come with being an adult, but haven't learned how to process all of it. It's a blur of unfiltered emotions coming at you at 100 miles per hour. And we can definitely feel this as we watch Tyler wrestle with all the aspects of his life. If you read the screenplay for Waves, you'll find that the songs are actually written into the pages, down to the exact moment that they start playing. Just like the filmmaking techniques, the soundtrack is intertwined with the very core of the film's characters and themes. These carefully placed songs act like a musical stream of consciousness of our characters. They're all songs that they would listen to in their daily life, and are very much a part of who they are and what they're experiencing at that moment.
Music's still very huge, but it was very huge in high school, and I was music hungry, and it got me through a lot of things. So I thought for characters in high school, from their point of view, a soundtrack and music would be a huge gateway closer to their world and headspace.
For Tyler, there are two things that are most important to him: wrestling and his relationship with Alexis. When he injures his shoulder, he gets robbed of a core part of who he is. He starts ramping up his drug use and pushes himself to the point of physical agony. When Alexis breaks up with him, the filmmaking becomes even more frenetic as the aspect ratio suffocates us in Tyler's immediate pain. We see, hear, and feel nothing else as he continues into his downward spiral.
Ty's world starts crumbling so quick, he doesn't have time to, he's basically just reacting the whole time because he's not getting a second to like really take some time and process anything.
Swear to God. You drunk? Yeah, I'm fucking drunk, but you can fuck with me.
With what Ty is going through in that moment, I Am a God is the kind of song he'd be blasting in his truck. As adolescent as that is, you know, in what's going on and how severe and everything is amped up, like that's the kind of song when I was going to those places in that emotional head state at that age that I would be blasting.
Watching it again, Tyler's story plays out like a contemporary American tragedy where I kept wanting things to go differently, even though I knew the devastating crescendo that this was all leading up to. When Tyler is about to confront Lexus at the party, we see the slow motion shot of her going into the garage, as if it's going to haunt him like a ghost for the rest of his life. Much like a breaking wave, Tyler has reached a critical point and is about to release everything in a violent impact. A single point in time can cause it all to come crashing down. Tyler sits in the back of the police car as the flashing lights illuminate his face in harsh shades of red and blue, giving the impression of the screen interchanging between fragments of a person that never had the chance to fully form.
There was a woman born from a loaded broken till it was open, just like a Lotus. Oh yes.
The second half of Waves takes a dramatic shift in tone as we switch to Emily's perspective. No longer are there spinning cameras and vibrant colors that burst out of the screen. Instead, we get static shots in a 4:3 aspect ratio, framing a family that doesn't know how to move past this tragedy. The lack of music makes us feel that something was taken away from us.
Upon your plea of guilty, it is the order of this court that you be sentenced to the State Correctional Institution of Miami for the rest of your natural life.
While the first half of Waves is an absolute gut punch of visceral filmmaking, the second half is like the calm after the storm. The wave may have broken, but we still need to get to the shore, and it's in this half that the film takes a more spiritual approach.
To be halfway through the movie when you think it's over is really kind of a metaphor for what's beautiful in this, in kind of what life is. The idea that it is not over, and people have to keep living beyond, and the people that, you know, did not even, you know, cause this to happen have to find a way to live beyond this kind of major event that seems, you know, unforgivable.
Troy Edward Schultz was an intern on a few of Terrence Malick's later films, such as The Tree of Life, and you can see glimpses of his soulful filmmaking make its way into Waves. This style really starts to come through in the film when Emily meets Luke.
My grandparents used to play this stuff all the time.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
My grandpa used to stay up all night and listen to records. Sometimes dance with my grandma.
As the two of them start opening up to each other, the aspect ratio does the same, calling back to what it was like when we were first introduced to Tyler and Alexis. The two stories are joined together through visual motifs and recurring songs. When the instrumental version of Rushes finds its way back into the film, we connect back to the intimate moments on the beach between Alexis and Tyler. The music can be seen as a spiritual connection between the two stories, reminding us of the universal nature of these emotions and how some things are not bound by time. As the relationship between Emily and Luke blossoms, the music continues to resurface, and we get more and more musical moments of euphoria that echo the first half. Frank Ocean's music is a beautiful companion for the journey of healing that the characters undergo in this half of the movie. His songs embed themselves in the very soul of the film, as his sensitive lyricism and beautiful instrumentals help guide us towards a place of acceptance and reconciliation.
How you doing with everything?
I'm good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You know it's okay if you're not. You can tell me anything, you know that, right?
Yeah, I know.
Waves does a great job at capturing the complicated relationship that people sometimes have with their parents. There's no doubt that Tyler's dad loved him, even though his way of showing that caused him to push Tyler too far. No family is perfect, and it takes some people an entire lifetime to reconcile with that.
You don't have any regrets?
Kinda.
Yeah? Yeah, well, you don't have to. You don't need to. You're okay.
There comes a point when we realize that we can't change anything about the past, and the best thing to do is to try to move forward.
I know the pain that you're feeling right now. Believe me, I know it. I think about your brother every day. The things that I could have done differently. But we can't change it, you know? All we have is now. All we have is now. And I'm telling you this because I love you. Holding on to that much hate will destroy a person. And I'm not about to let that happen to you. You have so much love to share with the world. And so much life yet to live.
I will always love you how I do.
By opening up to each other, Emily and Luke are able to start reconciling with the pain in their lives. Emily gains a new perspective on her own struggles, and this allows her to start picking up the fragments that were left behind in the wake of Tyler's incident.
You know, this person that we've totally disregarded actually heals this family in a way and is the way forward. And so that to me is the reason why you sit through something heart-wrenching, is because it's an example that people keep going, and the most surprising places will, you know, afford you the greatest redemption.
Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not rude. It doesn't boast. Love also forgets wrong.
Waves argues that tragedy and beauty are very much intertwined as part of the human experience. It tells of the ripple effects of a single devastating incident, but is also a gentle reminder of the interconnectedness of all people, whether that's a pair of siblings, two strangers who fall in love, or people in different generations or belief systems. It's good to remember that every breaking wave may be part of the same ocean. I understand that waves might not connect with some people because of its structure or unrestrained approach. I'll admit that it didn't for me when I first saw it, but watching it again brought out new emotions that I hadn't felt the first time around. With a film as experiential as Waves, I think perspective is really important, as we all bring a certain set of experiences that affects how we process the images coming out of the screen. In the end, I think movies are all about allowing an experience that's bigger than yourself wash over you and taking in what you can. I find movies to be very therapeutic in some ways, and I think that they can truly help us reflect on ourselves and maybe help us love each other a little more.
Hey, you remember Papa's favorite scriptures? It said, hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all offenses.
The final sequence of Waves has us watch Emily ride her bike down the street that she grew up on, bookending a cathartic journey of tragedy, healing, and forgiveness. She pedals forward with the sunlight dancing between the leaves of the trees behind her. She lets go of the handlebars as a smile forms on her face, and the sounds and colors in and around her start flowing together as one.
Beautiful and strange. It must be I found it a way. I must be